Over to you, Parag.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Am I audible to everyone?
Yeah.
Perfect. So, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending upon from wherever you are joining in. So, my name is Rakesh Darge. I'm fast track recognized solution architect for Dynamic 365 FO, certified trainer and group leader and member of India Dynamic 365 Power Community User Group. So first of all, thank you for joining us today. So if you look at the numbers, so we had 14 plus LinkedIn registration and 50 plus MS Team registration as of this morning. This is a second session in this month in the series of July community meetup. And we always great to have you here, whether you are in India or any part of the world. And today I'll be joined by Parag. So I think I'm sure vast majority of you already know who is Parag. So right. So Parag is a community leader and a winner of Community Spotlight Award and Community Star Award as well from Microsoft. I think twice or thrice. He comes with a strong background of HR and finance and operation aspects. He has a deep knowledge on technology aspects, not from the Dynamic 365 perspective, but right from the previous version of Dynamic 365, which is AX 2009, AX 2012, is very active member in the community, contributing through a blog, through sessions, as well as addressing a lot of questions in the series where everybody tried to seek help. But before I hand over mic to Parag, a bit of a housekeeping. So please do and try and ask questions through Q&A chat. I know today's topic is bit, uh, I would not say complex, but a bit different than the normal integration. It is all about dual rights. I'm not sure how many of you are currently leveraging dual rights and what is dual right. And there are a bunch of tech talk sessions that are available from Fast Track team and also bunch of sessions that I took in the couple of months back, which is available on my YouTube channel. However, in today's topic, every developer, every consultant, technical consultant, often try to see how can he or she, expedite the activity in the development. Considering the facts, there are smooth implementation and considering the the deployment process of dual right that comes with a bunch of out of the box capability maps and everything. However, there is always a need, right? When there is a need for a customer or a business process to create the custom tables or rather the data entity. So that is where the topic today, and Parag is going to help us to understand his best of learning, what he has learned so far during the implementation of his customer implementation with dual rights, right? So Parag, would you like to introduce yourself and kick off the session today?
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Let me share my screen. I will start with my presentations first. Okay. Let's. Okay. So good morning, good afternoon. My name is Parag Chapre, and today I'm going to speak about how to create custom entity for dual right. So this is about me. So currently I'm working with 4Vision Netherlands as a technical solution architect. I have more than 14 years of experience in Microsoft technologies, for example, finance and operation. I also work earlier version of Dynamics like AX 2009, 2012. I have good experience in human resource, which is now merged with finance and operations. I also have good experience on Power Platform, Power BI, and Azure integrations. I am a Dynamics 365 HR community star from last 2 years, also the community contributor. And recently, I got the honor for Microsoft Dynamics Community Spotlight for the month July. And currently, I'm working with Microsoft product team for the development of human live and absence and the timesheet module for finance and operation. And I'm living in Netherlands from last 5 years with my family. If you have any questions, you can always email me on my email ID paragchapter@gmail.com. Also, you can follow me on the LinkedIn. I also write articles on my websites, especially on the finance and operation, human resource, Power Platform, and Power BI. Okay, so agenda for today's session is so first we will see what is dual right and why to use dual right and the licensing model of the dual right. Then we will see how what is custom entity and how to create custom entity in finance and operation in the dataverse and how we can map the dual right. And in the last, we have some demo and tips and tricks. If you have questions during the session, please raise your hand or then I can answer. Okay, so what is dual right and why we have to dual right? Dual right is not any kind of a tool. Dual right is a out of the box infrastructure that provides by Microsoft. And dual right, it is a bidirectional integration between finance and operation and dataverse. For example, we have different models in finance and operation. So let's think about the HR functionality like employees, managers, leave and absence benefit. If you want to sync your data in with the dataverse, so then you have to use dual right, and you have to configure some maps within the finance and operation. So let's say when we hired an employee in the finance and operation, automatically it will sync with the dataverse through the dual rights. And if we change something in the dual right, let's say if a female employee is married and she change her last name, automatically that last name will be changed from dataverse to finance and operation or finance and operation to dataverse. So this is bidirectional integration. So you can use multiple scenarios here. You can use the like customers, products, sales. Within the dual right, we have some out of the box integrations which is provided by the Microsoft. So you can integrate this easily with finance and operation and the dataverse using dual right. Okay, so if you want to learn more about dual right, you can follow sessions provided by Rakesh, which is available on the YouTube. So you can get more information about dual right, how you can troubleshoot and make some performance with dual right, and you can also learn about dual right in more details. Okay, so there are some top reasons why to use dual write. The first reason is dual write provides near real-time integrations between finance and operation and the power platform, you can say dataverse. And it also provides the bi-directional integration between the both systems. So if any change made in the finance and operation or dataverse, it will sync automatically. The second reason is dual right provides some out of the box entities like customer, master, which is automatically mapped in the dual right. And this will automatically sync your data with both the system. The third reason is dual right infrastructure follows no code and low code principle. It means you don't need to write too much code in the dual right. So for example, if you want to make some kind of transformation or filter, then only you can do it in dual right. Otherwise, you have to write all your code in the Power Platform or in the financial operation entity. Okay, so licensing model, that's maybe like every customer asks whether they need a license for dual right. No. So if you don't need the license for dual right if you have already license for finance and operation. But in the dual right, we have a concept called restricted and unrestricted table. For unrestricted tables, we don't require any additional license. But for restricted table, there are some tables which is restricted in the Power Platform. But for that, you need a license. Okay, so what is custom entity? The simple definition of custom entity is the entity which is not available in the current system. So for that reason, we need the custom entity. So then customer asks questions. Okay, why I cannot use the existing entity and modify something in the existing entity? Yeah, that's possible. You can use the entity which is available in the system and you can modify according to your need. But in case you need an entity which where you can write your own logic, you can create own fields. That's not possible with the standard entity, because standard entity already have some built-in logic which you cannot bypass or which you cannot delete. So then in that case, you need a custom entity where you can create your additional fields, additional maps. You can also write some transformation logic. Dual write platform is extensible. That means you can extend the dual write integrations by creating a new field in the existing entity, or you can write some logic. And when you use your custom map, so you can extend with the existing map, and you can sync the data between the finance and operation and the Microsoft Dataverse. Okay, here we have some cases. What happens when we have entity available in both finance and operation and Dataverse? So in this case, when we have entity available in the both the system, then we have to just create a dual write map in the finance and operation, and we have to provide all the mapping. The next case is when the entity is already available in finance and operation. So then in that case, we have to create an entity in the Dataverse, and then we have to add a map in the dual write. So then there are some cases, like for example, if your entity is a legal entity specific, then you have to add the stadium entities lookup in the Dataverse entities. The third case is when the entity is available in Dataverse only. So when the entity is available in Dataverse, then you have to create an entity in finance and operation. So you can create an entity in finance and operation in two different ways. So first you need the table, and based on the table you can create entity by wizards or directly by right clicking on the tables and add-ins and the data entities. So here also the logic, if your entity, when you create an entity in finance and operation based on the legal entity specific, then you need to also include the company's entities in the lookup. Okay, so if you want to create a custom field, we need some prerequisites. So for example, you need a virtual machine to create entity in finance and operation. The second thing we need is the Power Platform. We need access to the Power Platform so that we can create entity there. And you must configure dual write in finance and operation before you use custom field. Okay, so when you create a custom field in finance and operation, there are two ways which I mentioned earlier. So first thing is you need a table. You have to identify a table where you have to create a custom fields, and then you can right click on the table, add-ins and create entity. So that's the first way. Second way is you can use the data entity wizard to create a custom entity. And we have to make sure when we create an entity, the data management should be enabled and it should be public. And we need to also think about the alternate key. So when we have a table, we should always define the alternate key for the dual write. And in the same way, we will also need in the Dataverse. Okay, then how we can create a custom entity in a Dataverse? So for that, first we have to log into the Power Platform, make.powerapps.com, and then you have to select your right environments. I saw most of the time users they select the wrong environment and they see that they don't have access. So always you have to select your correct environment, go to the Dataverse and select the table, and then you can click on the new table and you can create an entity there. So when you create an entity in the Dataverse, so make sure you should have the same structure in the finance and operation. Also, your entity key should be same. If the entity key is different with finance and operation, then yeah, then you cannot integrate the data between finance and operation and Dataverse. Okay, so let me show you how you can create a custom entity in the Dataverse. But before that, I can show you how you can configure the dual write. Okay, so first thing is you have to go to the LCS. So this is my environment created for this demo. So when you have an environment available where the dual write is not configured, then you will get some kind of maybe link here to configure the dual write, and you have to also enable the Power Platform environment in your LCL. So in my case, the environment is already linked with the Power Platform with the dual write. So next step is let's say this is, let me check the environment first. Let me open it from here. Okay, so once you configure the dual write integration, you have to click on data management, and then you can see the tile called dual write. Okay, so if you don't configure the dual write, and first you have to do it from the LCS, and then you can create a table map here. So I will first go to my virtual machine. I already have created a table for this demo. I will show you how to create an entity. Let's go to my table list. So I create a table called project name, which has two fields called project code ID, which is a unique ID here, and the description. And for this table, I have the index, which is on the project code ID. And it also define the alternate key here. And once you define the alternate key for your table, you should also put the property as a replacement key. Okay, so if you see here the replacement key, should put the replacement key as your alternate key here. Then the next step is we have to create a entity for this. So the first option which I mentioned earlier. So if you right click on your table, you can see add-ins, create an entity. That's the first option. Second option is you can go to the right click here, add new, and say new item. So here you can provide the name of your table, CHP. So here you can enable your data management capabilities and make it public. So there are two ways. So I will use the first options, which is quite easy. So wait for some time. Okay, so you can see the message, the entity is already created in the project. So let's verify the entity. So if you see here, the entity is created called CHP project code entity. And this entity has two fields, project code ID and the description. There are no methods, which is good. And okay, so now we have the entity available. So now the next step is we have to create the same structure in Power Platform. So let me go to the Power Platform now. Okay, so you can just type web.powerapps.com or make.powerapps.com, which is same. Okay, so make sure you select the proper environment here, the correct environment. So in this case, this is my environment. Click on the Dataverse and tables. So on the top, you can see new table. So click on new table and provide the table display name here. So let's say it's called project code. So here you can define numbers of properties here. For example, if you want to make some track changing, like enable change tracking on your entity, yeah, that's possible. You can do that. I'll not do it at this moment, so I'll just click on save. Okay, so one more thing to notice, my project code ID field is the string size and which has a size of 20, and the description is the field which has a size of 60, 20 and 60. Okay. So the entity is created now. So when we create an entity in the Dataverse, by default there are some fields from the Microsoft, like for example, created, modified. These are the standard field. So let's create a new field here. Click on columns, new column. Let's say check. Here you can also make required field and you can also change the size here. Let's say the size is 20. The next field is description. Okay, so now the two fields are created here. If you see here, the project code and the description. So next step is we have to create a key now for this entity. Click on the key and say add new key. Project code, and you can say project key, code is your key. Click on save. Okay, so that's good. Now we have the entity available in finance and operation and in the dataverse. So now the next step is we have to configure this entity. We have to map this entity in the dual write. So let's go back to the finance and operation, data management. Okay, so let's click on the dual right now. Okay, so first we have to click on the plus add table map. And here we have to select the entity from both the environments. So first you can see, first is finance and operation environment. Let's wait for some time. Okay, let me refresh the environment and let's. Oh no, so we have to also build the project from here. I forgot to build the project. Let's say build the solution. So in this case, I forgot to build my project because recently we created an entity, and without building and sync your entity, this will not visible in the finance and operation under dual write. Okay, so there are a couple of warnings because I need to create some labels and I need to add menu items to the security group, but that's fine. Okay, so it's still working. Okay, wait for a few more seconds. Okay, meanwhile, any questions from anybody? Check.
Parag, I do have one question.
Yeah.
Uh, Can you just give us a little bit idea about the integration key concepts from a FNO data entity and dataverse entity perspective?
Yeah, okay, I can tell you what is the integration key. Let me show you if I go to the dual right. Integration key is nothing but your unique ID between the two systems. So for example, in this case, I have a project code which is unique in finance and operation, and project code also unique in the dataverse. So let's say uh, we cannot modify this field in both the system. So we only have description in this case which we can modify, and according to that project code ID which will search in the finance and operation and dataverse when we are running this integration. So let's say I have a project code 1 and 2 in finance and operation, and I have the project code 2 and 3 in the dataverse. So let's say if I modify something on the project code 2, so then that project code will check in the finance and operation based on the integration key and only update the record for that table. So this will not create a new record. So it's like it is always check whether this is a unique record. If there's no unique record, then this will create a new record in the system. So that is the integration key.
Okay, got it. So basically what you mentioned beginning of this call that the dual write as a platform allow you to tightly couple data to be synchronized near real time between dataverse to FNO, and
Yeah,
hence these integration keys are playing an important role. So there should not be any duplicacy of data across both the system. Is that a
yeah.
right understanding?
Yeah, so it
Okay.
performs a crude operation like create, update, delete. So whenever we define the integration key, if we don't define the unique key like an integration key, then system will always create a new record. But then what if you want to update the record, then how system will identify? So for that purpose, we need to define the integration key.
Understood, Parag. Thank you.
Okay, so the build is complete now. So this took some time. So I'll go to the finance and operation and I'll refresh. Okay, so let's click on Devil right now. I think the integration key concept we also have in the Dynamics connector, which integrates Dynamic AX and CRM in the earlier version of Dynamics.
Yes.
Okay, so I hope this should be visible now here with some time. Okay, so you can see here the project's codes is available. So let's select our entity. And this is the from Microsoft Dataverse. So let's say project codes. We also have the entity available here. Yeah, it's here. So you can use a new publisher or you can also use the default publisher from your environment. You can give maybe any kind of version like v 0.0.0.1, and you can give the description of your integration. Let's say project code and click on save. Okay, so once you create the table map, then you have a couple of options here. So first is you can add your column mapping between the two system. The second option is you can filter the data. So for example, if you want to send the data based on some enum value, so let's say if the sales order type is invoice, then only I want to integrate the data from finance and operation to Dataverse. So let's say this is the filter option. So in the filter option, this follows the OData syntax. So you can write your query here as a filter option. Transformation I'll show you later. So let's first click on the mapping. So I will select the project code ID and here project code. Click on add mapping. So here the description and then here the description. Okay, let's say in your situation you have some enum values which you want to transform. So in that case, what you can do is you can go here, click on this equal sign, you can see the add transform. So in the add transform, you have a couple of options, for example, value map. So you have a different kind of sales order type, let's say invoice, packing slip, confirmation. So then you can add the values from the Dataverse and you can add your label here. So in this way you can do the transformation. So now the mapping is ready. So I'll click on save here and then I'll go to my environment. Let's click here. Okay. So now this is the mapping is completed. So what I can do is for the project's code, I already created a form to enter some data. So let's say, let's click on the human resource and this is my project codes. Okay, let me delete this record first. Okay, so let's create some data now. Let's say, and let's click on save. Okay, so here we have a concept called initial sync and the run. Initial sync is nothing but like for example, you already have data available in the finance and operation and you want to sync all your data to the Dataverse. So then in that case, we have to run as an initial run. So let's say if I click on run here, then you can see initial run. So this will sync all your data to the Dataverse environment. But if you already have all the data sync up, then you can just do the run. So that means whenever you create a data or modify data in the finance and operation or the Dataverse, then this will sync the data in from the system. Let's say click on run. Okay, so you can track your data here. Okay, so that's some errors. That's okay. That's no problem. No, so now I will save this one and go back and let me go to the Dataverse and let's say refresh. Okay, let's try to think here again. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so first it's doing the initial sync. So what I will do is I will stop the initial sync for now, and I'll directly to the. Okay, so initial sync is completed. So if I click on this one, so now you can see it's complete. And if I go to the Power Platform and refresh, let's refresh. Okay, so let's take only the data description. So you can see now the data is created in the Power Platform. Let's modify some data in the finance and operation. Let me go to the dashboard, projects code. Let's click on India. So let's say. Okay, so now you can see I updated the value in the finance and operation. Previously it was TCS India. Now it is TCS India Pune. So you can see the updated value here. So let's say if I want to modify this value in the Dataverse, let's click on edit. And let's say, okay, okay, so the data is saved now. So if I go to the finance and operation, this should update the value. So now you can see the values updated in the finance and operation. So let's perform the delete operation. Let's delete this record here in the finance and operation. And now let's go to the Power Platform and just say refresh. So now you see the data is not available in the Dataverse. So this performs a crude operation like create, update, and delete operation. Okay, let me go back to my presentation. So we see how to map the custom entity in the dual write. Like we have to select the entity from both the systems and then add the mappings. And here we see some, this is the default mapping, but we already see the real mapping. Yeah, filter data. Yeah, in the dual write, we can filter that data based on the OData filter expression. So there are some standard filter like starts with, not contains, and enum values. For example, sales order is equal to 1, 2, 3. In this plus plus, this stores the value like numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but the labels like invoice, confirmation, or packing slip. You can also filter the data based on your dates, or you can also use the multiple criteria. Transformation, yeah, transformation. This is one of the example. So here you can see the transformation is based on the enum values. So here we have the full time, part time, and the key. So these values, yeah, these values are available in the Dataverse. So for that, you have to go to the CRM, and in the CRM, you can check this value. Okay, so we already tested the integration, how it works. So I have some do's and don't for this dual write. So it is always like customer asks always this question, okay, can we configure this same environment for multiple instances? No. So you should always have F&O and CDS instance based on one environment, and this should be in the same tenant. So you cannot host the finance and operation and CDS in the different region. So for example, West Europe or East Europe. So you cannot do that. So you have to always use the same region and the same tenant. Okay, and you cannot link finance and operation and the Dataverse with two different tenants. So that's not possible. You have to always use one single instance. And even you cannot link the finance and operation with multiple Dataverse instances. And dual write has some out of the box scenarios like Dynamics 365 apps enabled on the instances. So you can use that instances. I can also show you some of the solutions which is available in the Dataverse. So if I go to the dual write, when you click on the apply solution, then you can see some out of the box it is available from the Microsoft. So if I select this one, then maybe you can get something about sales order, purchase order, and there are some solutions available. Let's say app source. Otherwise, I can go from app source directly here. No, but you can also go to the app source and you can download the dual write solution for different technology. For example, human resource. So if you see here, previously there was one complete package from Microsoft for the dual write, but now they split up with different solutions. So for example, if you see here for finance, you have a different dual write maps. For human resource, when you enable the human resource, then you can see the employee, worker, position, job, department, in entities available. And when you use the supply chain or global party, then you can see the corresponding entities available within the dual write. uh, okay, so we when you have a small numbers of data in the finance and operation, then only you can use the initial write to transfer all your data from finance and operation to dual write. But if you have a large numbers of data and you are thinking about the data migration is not is we are not using dual write for the data migration. We are only using the data sync between the two system, because sometimes customer use dual write to sync millions of data from finance and operation to dual write. And when you make some changes like in the Power Platform for the dual write, you can always store that integrations with the DevOps, and you can deploy with the multiple environments. You cannot, you should not move the integrations manually, like importing and exporting the solution. So when you only have a limited numbers of entities, then only you can do that. But when you have more environments, let's say you have 10 environments, then this is not good idea to make it manual. Okay, so that's it from my side. Any question, feedback, remark?
Hi, Parag. Hello.
Hi, Kedar, yeah.
Yeah, so when this data is transferred, so is it always a incremental data, or is there any configuration which we need to do in both the application like FNO and the Power Platform where it manages
Yeah,
the.
it's always incremental data. So we have to do the configuration of integration key. So based on your integration key, system will identify whether it's the create, update, or delete operation.
So integration key in the C is the field of the entity, or it can be.
The
Uh,
field of the unique field of the entity. So in
okay.
my case, so if I go to the integration, let's say the integration key. So you see here by default, it used the project code ID because I define this as alternate key in the finance and operation, and same I define the unique key in the Power Platform. So based on that configuration, it identifies the integration key in the dual write.
Okay, so is it that while let's say the data is sent from FNA to Dataverse, so while sending the data itself, FNO filters the data which is to be sent, or is it that it sends the entire data and then the only the incremental data get imported into Dataverse? So how that
So
is
actually,
managed?
what happens is when we sync the data from finance and operation to Dataverse, first it checks the unique key as an integration key. So if it find the integration key, a matching record in the Dataverse, then it will only update those columns. It will not create a new record. So if it is doesn't find the data in the Dataverse, then this will create a new record.
Oh, so kind of it basically sends entire data. If the key is already available, it will append the data, else
Yeah,
create a new data. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And is there any specific size limit or something like that where the data can be stored in Dataverse? I mean, or is there any specific limit or
No,
the.
there is no limit, but if you are thinking about the data migration, so when you have large numbers of data, you cannot use dual write. You can use, let's say, SQL or Data Factory to migrate your data to the Dataverse or other system.
So mainly we can use it for either master data or aggregated data where we can
Yeah,
store the. Okay. Okay.
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Parag.
Okay. So I hope this session will help you how to create a custom entity and how to use custom entity in your projects.
Any questions, folks?
Yeah, one hi team. Just one question actually related to deployment. Like, how are these maps or these get deployed? Any special process we need to follow for deployment?
If you think about the X++, we have to use the normal concept like check in and check out and transfer the code between the multiple environments. So there is no change in the X++. But if you think about the Power Platform, you should always create some kind of solutions and you can put all your entities in the solution and then you can export and import with the DevOps.
So just
Okay.
to add on top of Pranav, which
Yeah.
what Parag had just mentioned, right? So when you create any maps, the custom map, right? So that maps gets created within the boundary of FNO. I think Parag has showed us in the beginning of this session where you can create your custom map or extend or modify the existing map. In both the cases, it allows you to save that map with a different number. That is what the version controlling happens at a map level. As soon as you do that, that map will be available in the solution in the Dataverse, and then you can have your dedicated solution based on the implementation and the version controlling strategy for your projects, and then you can apply that. So all the changes can be automatically seen in both the environment, which is the Dataverse and the the FNO. So as you can see here, right, you can apply the map and you can also refresh. You can save as the map if you modify anything the existing map.
Yeah, so if you can see here, you can always set a number 0.0.2, and then you can say, you can maybe provide some description, let's say removed description from the DT. There are some things, so yeah, but you can do in this way. That's the possibilities.
Okay, so like once we save this map, those are available in Power Platform as well, and from that Power Platform we can move ahead with the deployment or configure some solutions and do that.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when you set up the dual writes, so if you just go to the initial process of dual write, Parag, where we have set the process of dual write to be enabled, right? So before we do the infrastructure installation of all packages in Dataverse and everything, there is a two steps process. One is to enable which legal entity that you want to enable that data to be synchronized between Dataverse and FNO. And second step to connect the which Dataverse environment. So automatically it's behind the scenes, it automatically managed. And if you look at the option of apply solution, right? On if you just go back to the previous screen, Parag. So there's an apply solution. So if there are any changes that you have done from the Dataverse side, you can apply that solution. That solution will be start listing down over here.
Yeah.
And then you can
Okay,
apply solution. Those solution will contain the changes from Dataverse side, and then you can do the mapping of each and every field, which is modified at a Dataverse level and also available in data entity in FNO side.
okay, okay, okay. Thank you.
And no problem, Pranav. Any more question, folks? I think we'll take it as a no, Parag. Thank you very much for your time. It was a
Okay,
really
thank
great
you.
session, Parag. And thank you everyone, those who have joined our today's session. Stay tuned for our next announcement.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you,
Thank
and
you
have a
very
nice
much.
weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, you.
Thank you, Parag. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thanks,
thank you.
Parag.
Bye.
Thanks. Thank you, team.